is really no state like New Hampshire. Doesn't matter where you go in New Hampshire, it seems people play in politics. In fact, I think it's your sport. But I'm Perry Johnson, and I am running for President of the United States. And I might as well tell you there is nothing like it. But you can actually see what it's like. I have a reality series, which you can see. It runs on Newsmax. It'll be running Sunday at 7:30 and every week on Sunday night at 9 o'clock. And you will see exactly what it's like to run for president. I probably have things on there I should never say, but you'll see it live. And I will tell you that when I'm elected president, there are three things that will happen immediately. Number one, we will have a path to start balancing the budget. Number two, you're probably not going to like it, but we are going to get rid of the Department of Education. And number three, never again will a minor have transition therapy in this country. Now, I will tell you that I am a conservative. I believe in the Second Amendment, and we will never, ever change that. I believe I am pro-life, I am anti-woke, I am anti-China. But I am laser focused on one thing, and that is the economy. I wrote a book, 2 Cents to Save America. The concept is very simple. Instead of the government spending every penny in their budget every year, making sure that every penny gets spent so they get more money the next year, we're going to do just the opposite. We're going to freeze the budget and cut 2 cents out of every dollar of discretionary spending. And we will balance the budget as we reduce that inflation to 2% and we continue to ignite the economy. Now, I will tell you very simply that I have a plan to solve the problem. I wrote a book, 2 Cents to Save America. And in that book, we have the plan. I am the only candidate that has a plan. But it's probably pretty hard for you to ever vote for anyone without knowing something about them. And I will tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a small town. My dad was a pilot in World War II. My mom was a nurse in the Army Wax, and they loved this country. They loved it more than life itself. And from the time I was born, they told me that one of the greatest gifts you can have is to be born an American. And I believe that. Now, we didn't have a lot of money, but I worked in the steel mill to get through college. In grad school, I was getting eviction notices on pretty much a regular basis, but I got through. And in the 1980s, I landed a job in the auto industry with Ford Warner. Now, that was a time when the auto industry was struggling. Japan had come in with tremendous quality, and they were killing us. But I thought I knew how to solve the problem. And I started my first company. What I did was to change the way in which the auto company operated. Instead of having inspectors at the end of the line deciding what product was good or bad, I introduced statistical methods in the front of the operation, and we systematically ironed out variation. Well, in about 4 or 5 years, we had the best quality in the world, and we reduced our expenses by roughly 30 to 40%. I decided, why not quality as a way of life? And I wrote a book, ISO 9000, the quality standard. And it took off like hotcakes. And now Perry Johnson registrars and Perry Johnson Laboratory Accreditation do business in 61 countries. I've been bringing quality and efficiency to companies over the last 35 years. And I want to bring quality and efficiency to government. Now, I own over 80 companies We operate in 61 countries. I've never had a company go bankrupt. None of my companies have any debt, and I have no personal debt. We have a country right now that is mired in debt. We are now $32 trillion in debt. Now that amounts to such a gigantic sum that you can't even relate to it. But it's about $250,000 per family. And you know what? The government doesn't think that's enough. In fact, the spending has gotten so out of control that each and every family here spends $610 a month just on the interest in that debt. And you know what happened in Washington? They decided they're going to spend even more. I say that's nuts. Frankly, I think they're out of their minds.
Yeah.
And I say that we start bringing quality and efficiency to the government. Now, what separates me from everyone is that I am truly the outsider of outsiders. I don't even think the Republicans want me in the party. I'm not kidding. They never want me on TV. They don't want me talking about it because, frankly, I think both the Democrats and the Republicans have spent too much money. It doesn't matter who it is. Keep in mind that we were talking about our debt when Bush took office, and we were about $6 trillion in debt. Now we are $32 trillion in debt, and we have added more debt in the last 6 years than in the history of this country. $2 trillion per month has been added in debt. Now I admit I am Yankee frugal, but I think the government better start getting that way pretty soon, or we're in trouble. And if we don't understand everything is in trouble, Social Security is in trouble, Medicare is in trouble, our whole defense is in trouble, our whole way of life is in trouble. For the first time in history, you understand we're in a situation where they are talking about buying oil in Chinese yuan. If we lose our status as the world currency, everyone here will have a life-changing experience where your standard of living will be down 15% overnight with nothing happening.
We're going to take you shipwide.
Now, maybe you can hear. I want to tell you that I love this country more than life itself. I have my oldest son with me. He entered college this year. I have two 14-year-olds that are entering high school, and we are destroying their future because we are spending so much money. And I say we stop. Now I want everyone to understand one very simple thing, and that is that everybody in Washington says it's impossible to stop the spending. No matter who you talk to, they say it's impossible. But the one thing about America is that we have a history of doing the impossible. Every time we have been in trouble, every time we've needed to act, we have. Think of the very foundation of this country. I want you to go back 250 years. We had an idea, right? A simple concept. We were going to have a country unlike any country in the world. A country by the people, for the people, with a goal of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In fact, liberty was so important to us that Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." In fact, your license plate said, "Live free or die." That's how important. But to achieve that goal, we had to do the impossible. We had to fight the greatest army in the history of the world. We had to do it without guns. We had to sneak in the muskets. We had to do it even though we weren't trained, and we had a fledgling general by the name of George Washington. But you know what? We did it. We did it because we had a fire inside us that said, we're going to make it happen. And it's that fire inside us all the time. That fire inside us that has made America the greatest country in the history of the world. And we will continue that. We will always do that.
Whether you talk about Carnegie, Henry Ford, Edison, Vanderbilt, you go down the litany of things, we have said to the world, we can do it. And you know what they say? Wow. Well, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again, and we're going to make sure this is the greatest country the world has ever known. And God bless New Hampshire, and God bless the United States of America. Any questions? Fire away. In the meantime, you got to admit it's a great state. Yes.
So I got your book, and it mentions a lot of things. I like the forward by Cox Art and laugh, and that's really cool. But it's kind of skipping into the two things that are most important to me, which is foreign policy and the coronavirus. I'd like to hear you talk about both of those.
Okay. First step, in terms of foreign policy, keep in mind one central thing, and that is the strength of our country depends on the strength of the economy. Okay, here was the question. I had to actually come in closer to understand his question. He read my book, and he said it was short on two things. He did mention the coronavirus. I didn't discuss the coronavirus. The point of the matter is that we did have the coronavirus. I absolutely was against all of the masks. I was against any of the stuff. You might as well know let everybody know, I believe in a smaller government. In every single aspect of my life, I like the government out of my life. I think anytime the government decides to tell me how to raise my kids, anytime they tell me stuff to do, it's wrong. So that whole thing is crazy. Now I have an operation in China. I had to have an operation in China. And in that operation in China, understand they're a very difficult country to do business with. Very tough. I had no choice. We're the largest registrar in the country. And if you have companies that have an operation in China and they want one registrar, you have to go there. It's a disastrous place. I had to give the Chinese citizen 51% of my company to begin with. I believe the virus started in China. So if you want the origin of the virus, that's it. I happen to think it's wrong to force us to do anything, to force us to have vaccines, to force us to wear masks, to force us to do any of that. So going into the coronavirus too much, I could spend all day. Okay, so when we talk about something like that, we say, okay, the bottom line that we have is that in our country, we have certain things that we have to do. And I laid out in that plan, foreign policy is only related to the economy. Understand that Rome ruled the world for 1,000 years. Why was it toppled? They couldn't pay their troops. The Soviet Union was the biggest force ever. Why did the wall come down? They couldn't keep up with the arms race. So when we talk about foreign policy starts with making sure the economy is strong. I happen to think it's ridiculous to give $113 billion to the Ukraine when we're going broke here. But I will tell you this, that if I am going to do something, I want to know what the objective is. So if we're going to go into the Ukraine, we say, what is the objective? What are we trying to accomplish? And if the Ukraine is right adjacent Germany, I think Germany should at least give 2% of their gross domestic product to NATO, and they should contribute. We can't have a position where we're doing everything. So in terms of defense, the single most important objective of the government is to provide for the national defense. In fact, the only reason that taxes were ever imposed and ever allowed or made legal was to provide for the national defense. So that is the key. Any other questions? Yes.
The current Biden administration policies on energy has made us we're no longer independent with our
That's
energy.
nuts.
They sold out all our reserves and everything. So,
But that's in my book.
when you're elected,
Maximum production of petroleum. Understand it is stupid for us not to produce as much petroleum as possible. No one in the world does a better job of extracting and refining oil than the United States. No one. So when Russia goes and extracts their petroleum, and they convert it to natural gas, 5 times the methane goes into the air than in the United States. 5 times. Now, I wrote the book on ISO 14000, which is the environmental standard. I'm telling you right now that we need to do everything to maximize energy. That means we have to factor in that we need to have energy in every possible way. It starts with the fact that we're the biggest producers of petroleum in the world, right?
Right.
And so let's produce it. We don't have to spend $61 billion giving it to Russia so they can help fund the Ukraine war. Any other questions? Yes. Okay.
Mr. Johnson, first of all, I love your first name. It's my brother's and my father's.
Do I get your vote?
We'll see what your answers are.
Okay.
You talk about changes in Washington. How do you propose to get them done when you have both sides that are just the good old boys that want to keep things rolling along the way they've been rolling?
Well, actually, what you're saying is 100% right. That's why they hate me. They really hate me. I think even Fox News hates me. I think everybody there hates me. Because I really am the extreme outsider that tells the truth. So I will always tell you the way it is. It starts with the fact that you have to get people up behind you. So the cabinet has to be people that support your plan. I don't care if you have the most brilliant guy in the world. I don't care if he's the most accomplished guy ever. If he doesn't support my 2-cent plan, he's not on the cabinet. Similarly, I will never endorse or campaign for anyone, even if they are a tremendous guy, even if they have accomplished the world. If they do not support my plan, I cannot get behind them. Because it starts with having a cadre of people on your side. And without that, you'll never make it. You'll never be accomplished. Very interesting, I don't have turnover of my staff. The average tenure of my senior management and my presidents all over the world is about 18 years. Because management is everything. And you have to make sure you have the top people in the top positions. And now, I am a very loyal guy, but I'm a super honest guy. So I will always tell you the way it is, even if it hurts me. And right now, our government is in serious trouble. I am running primarily on the economy. You might as well know that is my central theme. It's been my theme all the way through. While we may have plenty of problems with crime, we have a huge problem with the border. It's like over the top. But why we don't finish the wall, I don't understand. But it is still on the economy. In the meantime, I think it's time to go and enjoy life. So I'm going to let you go, and let's have fun.
Thank you.